Welcome to the Fulfilled After 50 podcast. We are your hosts, Alice
and Carol. Join us each week for your fun dose of inspiration and healthy tips you can use every day so you can live the healthy and fulfilled life you desire and deserve.
Welcome to Fulfilled After 50. We are your hosts. I am Alice.
And I'm Carol.
And today we are going to talk about a pretty big subject that we all deal with, especially when we get to our mid-season of life. We've all gone through some kind of disappointments.
Right.
And so it's like, how do you handle disappointments? Because, sometimes we can sit there and wallow in it, stay there, right, where it doesn't become healthy then.
Right. It can create lots of terrible feelings, all the way to depression. There's so much loneliness and depression in the world today. But really, disappointments are one of those things that come to be, a normal occurrence in everyone's life. It just happens. And sometimes it's because there's something better waiting around the corner.
Right.
That door closes and you have to open a window. But it doesn't make it easier to go through it at all. In fact, it's a terrible feeling oftentimes, and sometimes then we start comparing ourselves to others, and we can get into this negative cycle that is just deafening and really can hold us back from what it is that we're here to accomplish on this earth, and also really steal our happiness.
Yeah, exactly. I think, the best analogy is that when we're going to an event, and we are so hyped for this event or whatever it is that we have created in our mind. And then we get there and it wasn't everything like we thought it was going to be. So we sort of have attached ourselves to a result, when really, if we do not attach ourselves to some kind of outcome, then we won't be disappointed in anything like that, right? It's like, how do we detach ourselves from a result that doesn't lead to disappointment?
Right, which is important, and it happens with almost every aspect of our life. It could be a conversation you were hoping to have, maybe a relationship that you thought was going somewhere that really isn't going somewhere. It could be a business deal that you were 200% sure was going through and it doesn't. It could be, someone that you were worked with who, or one of your employees that is just, you have this solid relationship, and one day, they're not going to be working for you anymore. It could be just a disappointment in terms of, an event that you were going to, like you mentioned, or something you had your heart set on, and then all of a sudden plans change and everyone seems fine with it, but you're not.
Right, exactly. So, one of the things is that I think I have learned for myself is it's okay if you have a disappointment to cry in that moment, to be upset in that moment, but then let it go. It's you can live there for a little while, but don't stay there. So the quicker you can come out of it, the better the outcome is for you. And just don't think of it in a negativity kind of way, but try to think of what is the positive outcome of that, right?
Absolutely. I know for me, I'll take a deep breath, sometimes say a prayer for patience, and just a prayer to try to understand what in the heck happened and how this came to be. And then I have to then stop and think. For me anyhow, I think, what's the worst thing that can happen now? What's the worst outcome for this? Figure out what I would do about that. And then always remind myself that I've got this.
Right.
And we can figure anything out. We can accomplish whatever it is we set our minds to. So then it's a matter of, how can I take this situation and turn it into something better? That's a really quick version. That doesn't happen that quickly, obviously. And depending on where we are in our maturity level, I know in past times it might be, you're just used to flying off the handle, you go through, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross is almost like her season, for when you have an issue like the denial and then anger, and then you bargain well, if I do this, can I then get whatever it is I want?
Right.
And then you have to go through then a little bit of depression, and then finally you accept it. But it can be a long journey, and I think hopefully in the season of our life we can avoid some of those earlier anger and denial, and just realize this happened, and now what am I going to do?
Yeah. So try to avoid, like Carol says, the stress reactions of an event. So how do you avoid that? Is then maybe, like Carol says, you go meditate for a little while, take some breaths, and it may even require getting up and just taking a walk and just letting that stress flow off of you so you are not in a reactive state. Sort of like what we said in our last podcast, we talked about our evening routines. And, one of those things is just letting that stress go before you go to bed so you don't wake up and you're still in that recurring mode and reaction.
Exactly. Because that's a terrible place to live. The other thing too is if you pause and you take note of the situation and you grab hold of it, it also prevents us from saying some of those things that we will regret later. Hurtful things that can come out of our mouths. And none of us are perfect. We've all been there before. And but that's one thing that will help prevent some of that from happening as well.
Right. So like we just did in our Facebook group, if you're not in there, you should be. Fulfilled After 55-0. We took them through a 30-day challenge, journal challenge. And this is one of the benefits from that, because if we go through some disappointments or we go through some kind of stress that we can't really verbalize, when we write it down in a journal, it really releases those emotions of stress and anxiety, and it like de-stresses you.
Right. And I think also surrounding yourself with people who have that capacity and that capability of overcoming something you can talk to and have some discussion about that is not going to turn into something negative. I know even just the two of us, I've learned a lot from you, and hopefully, but I mean, you're much better at like, reading the Bible or journaling. And I've learned that can be really helpful. I'm probably more apt to do meditation or go take a long walk or do some form of exercise when I get some bad news or something like that. But you can kind of play off each other and learn techniques that other people have tried very successfully that work for them, and try to implement that into your own life, and then make your own decision about what works best for you. But remembering to try to take those situations, and I know a lot of them can be very severe, it could be a very poor diagnosis, something terrible happens. We're talking more about those lighter disappointments, but some of that skill set will play into no matter what it is that you have going on in your life, and help you take those things and try to realize the positive about it.
Right. So it's developing those positive thinking muscles. And I know when we have friends and family who do have, they do get a diagnosis of maybe a bad health diagnosis, that it's hard for us to swallow that and think about it and it's, by nature, we go into a negative mindset, right? So it's all about stretching our positive mindset. And then when we focus on the positive, we're able to focus more on what's right in our lives instead of losing sight of everything that might be going wrong at that time.
Right.
So it's more about putting yourself in that state of gratitude and abundance and being thankful for what we have right now. And I think when we feel like the world is crashing around us and we have maybe some business disappointments or we have some financial disappointments, we really never know what tomorrow's going to hold, and we never know if we're going to be in another recession or anything like that. So, but instead of focusing like on what ifs and what's going to happen tomorrow, it's like live in your moment. Live in what you have right now and appreciate everything that God has given you right now, because it could be gone tomorrow.
Right. And it helps you when you take that positive attitude and that positive mindset, it helps open you up to the possibilities of what can really happen even though this disappointment has occurred. What are the possibilities with what I have? And so if we take that time to actually evaluate that, you can always come up with something that you're grateful for, which changes your mindset. You can always come up with some possibility, which will change your mindset. And it's a matter of taking those sometimes triggers towards going on a downhill spiral and turning them into possibilities and realizing that there's more that can happen, and realizing that you have control of the situation and that you've got this.
Yep, that's true. We all get up and have a choice. Okay, we're going to choose how we're going to react. We're going to choose on what we choose to see out of a situation. We're going to choose to be happy, sad, negative, positive. So remember, you have the choice.
Right. And once you get out of that, even if you're there and you're in that wallowing moment, once you get out of that and you actually put a plan in place, even though it may not be the ideal plan you'll end up with, once you start acting on that plan, you'll see momentum, and then you can really start to clear the air a little bit more and be able to see the possibilities.
Exactly. So we hope some of this has helped you. Just remember that it's okay to wallow in it for a little bit. It's what matters is how long you stay there. And if you're in that moment of some loneliness and depression that seeps in, you know what? Pick up the phone. Call somebody, call a friend, because somebody is there who cares for you. So, and we're here and we care for you. So we have an amazing group of women over in our Fulfilled After 50. If you are not over there, come over there now and subscribe to this podcast, because we will be in your ear every single week with some kind of inspiration and encouraging words for you.
Yeah, and boy, the friendships that have formed in there, it's like a sisterhood. And it's really something that we're quite proud of and that we really enjoy and love. So
exactly. So thanks for tuning in this week, and we will see you next week on another new episode.
All right, you're right. Take care.
All right, bye.
Bye.